Hi. Hello. Welcome back, everyone, to the channel, or welcome if it's your first time here. Well, I guess I should start this video by saying that I don't have, like, a roleplay or anything. This is just kind of me talking to the camera because I love doing these videos for you guys, and I recently came into possession of quite a few books. I read a lot, and recently I've also been reading Roberto Bolaño's 2666. This book, so long. That's this book. Sorry. You can see how long it is in here. But that's 2666. So I'm not going to be talking about that though. But I'm currently reading that. I recently brought some books by him. Sorry if I didn't get that together. But the book I'm talking about in this video. I hope you can hear me, by the way. The book I'm talking about in this video is this one. It's called Wanting to Believe: A Critical Guide to the X-Files, Millennium, and the Lone Gunmen. So basically, I'm a huge fan of the X-Files, as you can tell by the X-Files poster behind me. And this book is one I'd seen things about for quite some time. And it's by Robert Shearman, Robert Shearman, if you don't know him, I mean, I didn't really know him, but I looked him up, and basically he wrote the episode of Doctor Who called Dalek, from the first Chris Eccleston season, if you've ever watched that. And then basically, it's just a bunch of, like, reviews and critical opinions from this guy on the books, the shows and the episodes in the X-Files universe, which includes the show The X-Files and also the spin-off show The Lone Gunmen and the show Millennium, which technically isn't a spin-off, but it kind of is a spin-off. Long story. I won't go into that one. But I love book stuff. You know, I love book sounds, and I just want to do a brief little talk about this because these are my favorite ASMR videos. I love, like, you know, soft-spoken, just like having a friend, like, talking to you. I think that's great. If you don't know what the X-Files is, because I'm aware there's a lot of people out there who probably only know the theme song to the show, which is the Illuminati Confirmed song. But if you don't know what X-Files is, it was essentially a TV show about two agents from the FBI who investigate the paranormal and, like, aliens and conspiracies, and overall it, like, grows this, like, story about, like, aliens and the government and stuff. It's one of my favorite TV shows ever. I love the X-Files, and recently I've been in a big X-Files mood. That's why I wanted to get this book and talk about this book. And it starts out with just these two agents, but as it goes on, they do actually bring in different characters and such. It's a long story if you're not familiar with the book. I mean, the show, sorry. But it's a really great show. Millennium is a bit different. It's more, well, the first season is, like, more grounded in reality, and more, like, about just, like, criminals and such. But it's about a criminal profile, essentially, who can see into the minds of killers. And it adds for 3 seasons. That's a great show as well. I like that show. Not as much as the X-Files, it's not as good, but yeah, it's a good show. And I mainly brought this just because it's hard to find stuff about that show online. A lot of people don't really talk about it, so I think it's a shame because I think it's really cool. But the X-Files has so many, you know, it's such a great show. There's so it starts with a pilot, so which you can see there. Basically every episode is, every page is like the name of the episode, gives a plot summary and then a review of the episode. And it also gives information about stuff, so I'll show you the table of contents right here. Okay, so you can have a read if you're interested in the show. And that's the last page. And there are actually 2 more seasons of the show that aren't in this book because they weren't out when this book was written. This book was written in the late 2000s and it had a revival. But, you know, it's a really, really great TV show. It's not authorized by 20th Century Fox, but it's... I don't agree with everything Rob Sheeran says. I think he has some very weird opinions. He's very critical of the show sometimes, to the point where you question if he really loves the show. Especially season openers and closers, he really dislikes some of them. But he's a good writer, and I think he's a really talented writer. And he explains like the writing process and stuff really well. I do like this book. So I'll look at some of my favourite episodes, the X-Files. So you've got Pilot, which is pretty good. You've got Squeeze, which is great. There's an episode about the Jersey Devil. So there's like, you know, it's like urban legends, paranormal, and like science fiction and stuff. Ice, which is a great episode. It's very similar to The Thing, the movie The Thing. Eve. There's lots of really good episodes here. Tombs, season 2. Little Green Men. I actually rewatched that one. The Host. Dwayne Barry is a classic. Red Museum, I rewatched that one the other day as well. That was pretty good. Irresistible, that's one of my favourites. I actually talked about the X-Files in my last video. If you haven't watched that video, I basically talk about it there. Like, he dislikes my 2 favourite episodes of the show, which are Jose Chung's from Outer Space from season 3, which is so funny, and Syzygy from season 3, which I literally rewatched the other day as well. But this is I really love the X-Files, and I think it's a show that a lot of people like. A lot of my favourite shows I don't really recommend to people. For example, I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but I think it's not as wide, especially with my friends. I think a lot of my friends wouldn't like that show. Supernatural as well. Whereas I feel like the X-Files, I can recommend the X-Files to more people, and more people like that. You know, if I have to recommend a show that I love, my go-to shows are The Sopranos and the X-Files. I do like recommending Twin Peaks, but Twin Peaks is a bit too weird for certain people, especially when you get to like The Return and stuff. But the X-Files is a really, really good show. I'd highly recommend it. You know, I'm sorry, this is like a very impromptu video, but I wanted to record a video about this book because I think it's a really cool book. Millennium has some great episodes. Pilot, 522666. That one's about a terrorist bomber. You know, I'll tell you guys and girls and whoever else you want to be and who are, because I think everyone is valid here on the channel, because I don't discriminate against people who are cool, alright? And you're cool if you're on the channel, so... Anyway, so Squeeze is about this guy who can stretch through, like, vents and stuff, which is so cool. Conduit is about space abduction. The Jersey Devil is about the Jersey Devil. Shadows is about, like, a ghost. Essentially, Ghost in the Machine is, like, a 2001 AI thing. Smolder and Scully go to, like, this outpost where everyone gets taken over by, like, parasites and such. I won't do that for every single one because there's a lot of episodes, but I'll tell you about... I'll do that, and I'll start on season 2 and I'll tell you about some of the best episodes and what they're about. Let's do that. Okay, so the host is about, like, this creature that lives in the sewers called the Fluke Man. So good. Dwayne Barry and Ascension, which is a double-parter about this guy who believes that you basically has been abducted, and he goes a bit crazy, to say the least. Irresistible is about... Irresistible is really great because it's basically just about a serial killer. There's nothing, like, overtly supernatural about that episode in general, which is great. Endgame is a really good mythology one. The mythology ones are harder to explain what they're about because it would spoil the show, but Endgame advances the show, definitely. Season 3 has Clyde Brooklyn's Final Repose, which is so funny. It's about this psychic who can see how people are going to die. So clever. Too Shy is an episode I love. It's about this guy who meets up with women online and sucks them of the fat, essentially. 731, where Mulder's on a train. That's got, I can't remember what that one has. That's a Mythos one, so I don't want to spoil that, but that's really great. War of the Coprophages is, like, about these, like, robot cockroach from space. It's crazy. Syzygy is about these two high school girls who have, like, psychokinetic powers, and they share a birthday, and it's about, like, astrology and stuff. I love that episode. It's so perfect. Pusher is about this guy who can convince people to do anything. Jose Chung's from Outer Space is where this weird writer who's meant to be Truman Capote, essentially, I think, goes to interview Scully and other people about this alien abduction. He writes a book about it. Wet Wired is a good episode where basically people believe that there's, like, subliminal messages in, like, TVs and stuff. Home is a very controversial episode. I don't know if I can actually talk what that episode is about without... I'm not monetized, but I don't want to offend YouTube's sensibilities and regulations. Unruhe is a really good one about a serial killer and thought photography, I believe it's called, where you can capture, like, ghosts and stuff. That's great. Paper Hearts is basically Mulder. Mulder is throughout the show looking for his sister, who he believes is abducted by aliens. Paper Hearts, he basically works with this convicted serial killer because he thinks it might help him track her down. Never Again, about this guy who gets a tattoo that makes him kill people. And Jodie Foster voicing Tarantino was supposed to actually direct that. Small Potatoes, really funny episode about this guy who basically can transform into anyone. That's his ability. Then Millennium Pilot is great. Like I mentioned, the one about the bomb. Lean Like a Hunting Flame is a really strange one, but I do actually like that one quite a lot. About this guy who, like, drugs couples at clubs. It's really bizarre and I do like it. Force Majeure is a really great episode about, like, astrology and the end of the world. Millennium's got a lot of, like, apocalyptic imagery in it, and Force Majeure is a really good example of that. Lamentation is also really great, but I think to explain why that one's great, you have to watch the show. So X-Files Season 5, you got Unusual Suspects, which is about my favourite characters. It's the origin story of how they met each other and how they met Mulder. Detour is a really good one about these invisible people in the forest. Postmodern Prometheus is like this black and white take on Frankenstein, which is another really funny one. Honestly, Season 5 is, like, really consistent. Season 5 is probably the most consistent. My favourite season is Season 3. I think Season 3 is just full of fantastic episodes. Millennium Season 2, beginning and the end is great. Jose Chung's Doomsday Defense. He comes back in that. Mikado, which is basically about this serial killer who broadcasts on the internet. It's like the Zodiac Killer kind of. A Room with No View. It follows a serial killer who can change shape, essentially, which is a reoccurring character. The finale, the 2-part finale for that. The X-Files movie. It's great. X-Files Season 6, the beginning. Drive, which has Bryan Cranston as a guy who basically thinks he has to keep driving or else his head's going to explode or something like that. Triangle, where Mulder goes back in time on the Bermuda Triangle. Dreamland, about Area 51. The Unnatural, which is a baseball one. Millennium Season 3, 13 Years Later, which is a really funny one about movie making. You've also got Collateral Damage, which has Art Bell in it, which is about conspiracies. I'll do another video talking about Millennium, I think. X-Files Season 7, Hungry, which is about like this creature which eats people. X-Cops, which is an episode of Cops, but with the X-Files. Hollywood AD, which is like this satire and spoof of movies. Season 8, I Love Patience, which is like about this bat creature. Roadrunners is really good, about this cult. Red Room, which is like the story of a murderer. A guy who thinks he's in jail for murder and he like plays out his life backwards. It's like a Twilight Zone episode. Alone is really great. It's got like this lizard guy. And Season 9 is not very good, but Improbable and Scary Monsters are probably the best. But that's this book. I hope you enjoyed this impromptu ramble. And well, hopefully I'll see you some other time. So stay beautiful. And see ya. Till the next time, stay beautiful.